Hello there. I've managed to acquire myself a Dragon 32 computer, which has just turned up after some backwards and forwards with the post, but never mind. It's here now. So it's an 8-bit computer from, I think they were produced 1982 to 1984. I could be wrong, but produced by Dragon Data Limited, who were based in Wales. So, never used one of these before, but I would imagine they're on a par with other 8-bit micros of the day. So a little bit of research that I've done indicates that it's a 32 kilobyte machine, 8-bit processor. Mine appears to be in very original, well cared for condition. Box is a bit tatty, but they're allowed to be, I think, aren't they? So I'm going to dig into this machine. I'm going to check it's safe to power it up, and if it is, we'll put power to it and we'll see if this thing still works. If all goes well, I'll change all the electrolytic capacitors, make sure it's good for another 30 odd years. So yeah, let's dig into it. Okay, so computer itself. Plastic bag. What have we got? So that's a packing checklist. Okay, so we can go through that. So computer and polybag. Yeah. Documentation. Nope, missing that. Transformer. Yeah. Coaxial lead. Yeah. Cassette lead. Yep. And for some reason an extra plug, which I don't need. Lovely. Right, so looking at the machine itself, it looks to be in really nice condition. Apart from this label's a little bit bubbly, but I believe they all do that. Proper mechanical keyboard. And what have we got on the sides? Some sort of input output. 2 analog joystick ports. It's kind of nice. Cassette port in the middle. A reset button, which doesn't feel too clever. I'll get some contact cleaner in that. RF out. On the back, a monitor port, which I thought when I saw that, oh brilliant, it's got RGB out. No, it doesn't, it's composite. Well, that's fine. On off switch, again, feels a bit crunchy. Power supply. On the other side, that looks like some sort of cartridge port. Underneath, all the rubber feet are in place with virtually no signs of wear on them, and all my warranty stickers are in place. So when I do open this, I'll be the first one in, which is actually encouraging. It means somebody else hasn't been in here messing about. Well, until I do. Okay, let's dig into it. So, presumably to get into the case I'm going to have to remove 4 screws in the corner under these warranty seals, and it might sound daft, I don't actually want to break these stickers if I can avoid it. I'm just wondering if I can lift them. Probably not, but I'm probably going to have to punch a hole. Oh, that one seems to be coming. No, they're coming off in bits. Nothing for it, I'm afraid. That's a shame. Okay. Well, this seems very BBC Micro in its construction. So we've got a proper mechanical keyboard. And we've got the logic board itself, which looks immaculate. And oh, I see a bodge. I see a resistor right there. And we know it's a factory bodge because the warranty stickers were all in place. I wonder what that's for. Got a separate power board, which I'm going to test independently of the computer. What are we running? Are they RAM chips? Logic. Oh, 4116 chips. Yeah. I'm not a fan. So where have we got on the power board? So we've got diodes for some rectification, so presumably the power supply kicks out AC or modulator. Presume that's for the 5-volt circuit. And then we've got one of them is going to be 12 and one of them is going to be minus 5 volts. And some electrolytics. That's our power switch. Yeah, I think what I'll do, I'll disconnect this, I'll put power to the power board and I'll take some measurements with a multimeter, make sure everything's working there before we put power to the main board, because who knows how long this thing's been sitting for. Let's just disconnect you. Right. Something to probe. Power on, plug it in, see what we get. Volts DC. So that should be ground. No, that's not ground. That's ground. That should have nothing. Yeah, why not getting a good connection? That should be ground. Dead. 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 Oh. Do you know if I turn it on? God, better. That might work better. So what have we got? 12.3, 5.1, -5, bang on. I think it's safe to say that works. Suppose I can put it through to the main board now. Let's do that. Well, now I'm happy with my voltages. It should be safe to power this thing up. So let's put you back. And I have a monitor cable. I'll put it through to the TV. See what we get. All right. That seems to work. So we've got a functioning display. Keyboard seems to work. Check the reset. Excellent, well it's fully functioning right out of the box. So now I know everything works, I want to try and keep it that way. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to remove the power board and recap it, simply to avoid any future problems. Now, I know recapping vintage equipment is a little bit controversial. Some people always insist you do it. Other people say, well, unless it's a Spectrum, you don't need to do it. They're fine, leave them alone. I think if it's, as I've always said, if it's your machine, you do what you want with it. Personally, I always change the electrolytic capacitors. These things are pushing 30 odd years old. They do dry out in my opinion. And I've had some retro equipment which are absolutely fine after that time, and I've had some which are showing signs of leakage. Now, the worst computers apparently for this are the Sinclair Spectrums, because they use cheap capacitors and the computers themselves are incredibly hot. So the capacitors do tend to die, and when they die, they take other components with them. Although, in my experience, I've never had a faulty capacitor in a Spectrum yet, and I've worked on a few. I think it's just the luck of the draw. I have had a BBC Micro that had some very leaky capacitors in it, and they're not known for it at all. So I think not changing them is always a bit of a gamble. Again, if it's your machine, you do what you want with it. This is mine, so I'm going to change the capacitors. So I'm going to start with the power board. I've already disconnected the lead. And we've got, sorry, I'll make sure you can see that okay. 1, 2, 4 screws, and it should come away. Lift out. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll push the power button in and make it a bit easier. Simple as that. Right, I've just got my equipment warming up, and then we'll swap out a few capacitors. Right, done. So here's what I've pulled. Right there was a 220 microfarad at 35 volts, and that's what I've replaced it with, although I only had a radial capacitor, so I've just modified the legs on that one with a bit of insulation underneath. Not my neatest work, but it should be fine. These two here, 4,700 microfarads at 16 volts, and that's what I've replaced them with. And this one here was a 470 microfarad at 35 volts, and I've replaced it with 470 at 63 volts because that's what I had. Shouldn't pose a problem. That's done. I'm just going to go around it with a bit of contact cleaner on that switch and on that connector, and that should be the power board done. Oh, I'll have a look inside the modulator, make sure there's no capacitors lurking in there as well. Nope. Right, so I went through and I sprayed everything with contact cleaner, so the switch and the sockets. With the switch, it started binding up after I'd done that, so I think I might have removed a bit of lubrication that should have been there. So I put the smallest dot of lubrication on the end of that switch and worked it backwards a couple of times, and it seems fine now. But I just want to go through and check I've still got the correct voltages after doing that work, so turn it on. Where are we? So it's that and 12 volts. 5 volts. Minus 5 volts, yeah, we're fine. Onto the main board. So I want to change the caps in the main board, so I'll need to get that out. So this keyboard will have to come out first. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And possibly those two as well. Let's take them out first. So there we go. Dragon Data Limited, issue 5, for whatever difference that makes. Right, same thing as with the power board. I have grounded myself, by the way. I'm not just picking this up without doing that. Yeah, I'm going to fire up my equipment. I'm going to zip out and replace these capacitors. There are only 6 of them, so it shouldn't take too long. Okay, we're done. So, in total, I pulled out 3 10 microfarad capacitors, 1 33 microfarad capacitor, and 2 100 microfarad, and they were all rated for 16 volts. So, if you have one of these and it's in issue 5 and you want to know what capacitors to order, that's what was in mine. So I've not had to do any more cleaning up on the board because it is absolutely mint. There's nothing, there's no dirt in it whatsoever. Let's have a little look around anyway and see what we've got. So that will be the RAM, the 4116 chips. What's that? 6809. Now that'll be the CPU. That may be the ROM. What's that? 74 or less. So that's some sort of logic. Yeah. Oh, there's a relay there. I bet you that's the same as it would be on an Acorn Electron. It's probably for the tape interface. Okay. I said before I took this apart that the reset button was feeling a bit crunchy. Feels absolutely fine now. So maybe it was rubbing on the case slightly, I don't know. But I think I'm going to leave it alone. Right. I'll put it back together and make sure the thing still works. Do you know what? Before I go reassembly, I might as well put this through a bit of soapy water. While I'm in a cleaning mood, let's take these keys off and put them into some soapy water. So I've given the keyboard a very light brushing, and do you know what? That's all it needed. Nothing was that dirty really. So I'm just waiting for the keys to dry and then I'll refit them. The one standout feature about this computer is it is in such good clean condition. I really don't think it's got very many hours on it at all. So maybe it was used a couple of times and just put away. Anyway, let's see if I can get in here. You can, with these keys, see the inner workings. So if I just get a screwdriver in, So you've got two metal contacts, spring loaded, separated by a plastic bar. If I push down, yeah, they connect and that registers the key press. Very, very simple system, and it seems to work well. But for that reason, you would have to make sure that the keycaps when they're refitted are absolutely bone dry, otherwise you can see how easy it would be to cause some corrosion there. Case is all clean and dry. I'm not sure how well it's going to come up on the camera, but it is quite yellow. I think it's supposed to be a cream colour. In fact, I'm looking at the screen now and it looks better than it does in real life. So it has yellowed, I think, but not enough for me to worry about it. So when something's really bad, maybe I break out the peroxide. I just don't think it's needed for this. Sticker's still as lumpy as it ever was, but hey. I have seen replacement stickers going on eBay for not a lot of money, so maybe I'll replace it, maybe I won't bother. All clean inside, so I can refit the motherboard now. There were a few dust bunnies in there and a couple of stray hairs that didn't belong to me, so that's always lovely to find. All gone now, I'll start putting it back together. Right, my keys are dry, so I'll make a start on reassembling this keyboard. One thing I did notice, most of the keys on the underside, they're a bit like this, but two of them, slightly different construction, so I'm wondering if they changed the key supplier during production maybe. That's why we've got two different types. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if there's something really boring to observe about a computer, I'll find it. Anyway, let's get this put back together. Do you know, reassembling this thing, it just feels solidly well made and well designed. Even to the point where they've gone to the trouble of putting metal inserts in for the screws. So you're not screwing directly into the plastic. Just an added level of quality that you don't normally see in this type of computer. So before I button everything up properly, I just want to make sure it all still works. So I've plugged it in. Yeah, all good. Right, okay. Let's see what we can actually do with it then. Let's try some games. So the computer came with this lead, which I presume is the correct tape lead. So we've got our DIN socket there. I don't have the manual, so I'm going to assume red is for record, white is for playback, and the small blue one will be the remote, so that'll be for controlling the cassette motor. Now, I have ordered some cassettes, but they're in the post at the moment, so I've got the ROMs. So I'm going to try loading them through my laptop and see if we can get them to run. And we'll see how this thing performs. And there's two reasons I've picked the games that I have. They all happen to be Imagine games. First of all, because I've already paid for the actual cassette, so I think I'm legally entitled to use them. I'm not pirating software. And secondly, there's a Spectrum equivalent for each one as well, so we can do a comparison. Okay, let's try and load something. And yes, I do need to invest in a video capture card. And if anyone can recommend a good one, I'll be eternally grateful. So, let's try that. No, it's doing something. It's the first time I've used one of these, so I don't know whether I should be hearing something or not. Well, it seems to have loaded something. Run, presumably. Ah, play the tape again, right. Let's see what we get. This on the Spectrum was my favourite game ever. Leg It, it was also known as Jumping Jack on the Spectrum. I think it was Leg It on this and the Atari. Absolutely love it, so I don't know how it's going to hold up. As long as it isn't green, because all I've seen so far is green on this machine. We'll see. I/O error in 30. Oh, okay, that sounds good. Let's try cranking up the volume. Try that again. Try resetting. Oh, if I could type properly, that would help. Right, try again. Aha, okay. That did it. Right, so what have we got? Key controls. Shift, slash, and space. Or Z shift. I think we'll go for the Z one. Well, it's different. It seems cruder. Aha. Yeah, wrong button. Ah! Trying to play around the camera. Pedro, try you. Okay. Right, I had a bit of trouble getting that to load, but I don't think the computer was at fault there. I've cranked up the volume on my laptop and that seems to have fixed that problem. Oh, we've got some in-game music as well. So what are we doing? Spacebar for keyboard. Well, as I don't have a joystick, that seems like the good option. So what are my controls? Go up, down. Nope. Ah, right, there we go. Who's this dude? How do I jump? Okay, I have no idea what the controls are. Whoa. Get out of it. Must be a jump command. Alright, now I'm just pressing buttons. Arcadia, let's give that a go. Well, that wasn't the right control, was it? Try that one. Okay, not that button. I'm not sure if this is loaded incorrectly or I'm just... I had a fire button though. Well, yeah, anyway, you get the idea for the graphics. Let's compare it to the Spectrum. Okay, hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour for the Dragon 32. Quite a nicely made, solid bit of kit. Maybe not as technically capable in terms of graphics as other machines on the market, but do you know what? For the games I played compared to the Spectrum, the gameplay itself was exactly the same, so it's a perfectly capable games machine, and that's what I hope to use it for in the future. Construction-wise, it reminds me a lot of the BBC Micro, so I'll just compare the two actually. So, Beeb's a little bit wider and a little bit shorter, but yeah, they're not a million miles apart. They're both well-made units with mechanical keyboards, separate power boards, and a real quality feel to them. I'm quite impressed because with something like this, they could have built this cheaper. I mean, they could have given it a membrane keyboard. They could have put it in a smaller case. The motherboard would fit in a smaller case, but they didn't. They've gone for something a little bit classier, I think. And yeah, I think it just makes the whole product a bit more polished. I mean, let me just, if I compare it to, grab a Spectrum. Yeah, the Spectrum might be slightly more capable graphically, but I don't think it offers any more in gameplay. And the Dragon, it just seems like a much more professional machine. To me, anyway. So yeah, I think I'll wrap this up. I hope that's given you a flavour for the machine. Thank you very much for watching. It's very much appreciated as always. Take care and goodbye.